fires, floods, earthquakes, holes in the sun, magnetic storms, wars, the world on the brink of nuclear war, digital money, digital camps, state control and restrictions on civil liberties, the collapse of the global economy, unemployment, border closures, a new pandemic, famine, and much, much more. We hear about all of this every day, everywhere in the media. In short, the scale of fear and horror in the world is escalating. Let's figure out what is really going on. Welcome to my channel, Natalia Energy of Words. My name is Natalia. I apologize for recording this video with a voiceover translator. I have not yet learned your language. In fact, these processes are natural and inevitable. Changes are constantly taking place on the planet. Changes in the landscape, climate, life forms, social structure, and so on. And this process has never stopped. Living species are forced to mutate and adapt to new realities. Thus, in due course, Homo sapiens emerged while Australopithecus already existed, if we refer to anthropogenesis. Gradually, Homo sapiens began to displace Australopithecus as a more perfect version, which, thanks to a new intellectual configuration in the brain, the so-called neocortex, became capable of influencing the material world through its manipulations. At the same time, these two species lived in parallel for some time until the new species finally displaced the old one. The same is happening now with a new evolutionary process. More precisely, it has been happening for a long time, but it was a preparation. And now we will see the result of the new evolutionary human. The idea of human purity, freedom from sin and closeness to holiness, that is, to the high vibrations of the Creator, which religion brought into the world, is the evolutionary process. Nowadays, many believe that, on the contrary, religions are relics of the past, and we are now moving away from them, rejecting them and will live based on our own minds, relying only on our intellect, which in fact denies much of what is stated in religions, considering it unnecessary, wrong, and inconvenient in modern realities. But if we look deeper, our understanding is actually imperfect. It sees the world as mortal, that is, everything has an end. And scientists have long proven that the sun may come to an end. Sometime in the future, this will happen with 100% certainty. First, it will expand and engulf all the planets in the solar system, including Earth, and then it will contract into a dwarf star. The universe is not eternal, and the constituent particles of all matter are not eternal either. For example, scientists have already determined the exact lifespan of an electron, meaning that it too will eventually disintegrate. But all these studies concern dead matter, that is, matter without living energy, without the energy of the source that created it. And so it turns out that there are two worlds. The world of dead matter is what we work with every day, that is, what physics has studied and so on. And the world of living matter is what we see, what we know in religions, what people turn to every day, the higher mind, the Creator. The most interesting thing is that living energy, living matter, cannot be studied with inanimate instruments. Why have scientists not yet studied living energy, even though there are plenty of instruments available for research at the moment? Living energy can only be studied with a living instrument. Only a living person can feel God. No device is capable of counting God and proving his existence. This is because any device created from ordinary dead matter can only study such matter. I, in turn, have been researching the energy of words, that is, the living energy that is not accessible to ordinary instruments of research. That is, with the help of projective techniques, I research the energy of words, the vibrations that words carry, and with the help of this, I obtain the keys to exercises that can be performed to raise one's vibrations. Now I will tell you why it is necessary to raise vibrations. Why is it so important, especially now that we have entered a new era? It is already known that on the 19th of May 2024, the last planet of the solar system entered the sign of Aquarius. That is, we have already fully entered the age of Aquarius. This is an era with completely different vibrations. In addition, every 12,000 years, our galaxy also rotates somehow, and the Orion Arm, where we are located with our solar system, also enters into special high vibrations that really increase the noise of the Earth. This is an energetic background on Earth that really affects all living things on the planet. And that is why we need to be in tune with these energies, we need to be in tandem with them, to be in unison with them. And what are high vibrations from a human perspective? These are not the frequencies that we know, which, as I said, are studied in dead matter. This refers to the vibrations of your living energy. That is, the vibrations that a pure soul emits. That is, your high thoughts, your high states, which, first of all, attract all the best into your life, and secondly, they cease to destroy you, cease to see the world as it is being destroyed. That is, how it is when we look at the world of dead matter. It turns out that the main idea is to keep yourself, your soul, and your body pure. This is what religions have been preparing us for over many thousands of years. Gradually, and this is what people have been led to. That is, God communicates directly with each person, it does not depend on anyone else. And for each person, this is their own personal process. Our body is actually pure, but our mind is not so good. There are all kinds of methods and techniques in psychology to remove the traumas that have settled there, which project the world in a negative light. That is, when we see a person and actually project onto them the image of some kind of offender. In reality, this person is not to blame for anything. And so on. All this shows that it is actually the mind itself that is very vulnerable, our consciousness, the unconscious, the subconscious. And all this, of course, causes such problems. My key exercises rewire the mind by raising the vibrations in the body. Therefore, you need to monitor what is happening to you at any given moment, what vibrations you are on, and use one or another key that I research and record for you in order to shift yourself to higher vibrations and keep yourself there. For example, you are in a state of anxiety and fear, let's say, due to a lack of money. In this case, you are experiencing low vibrations, anxiety and fear. Therefore, take the key exercise for these concepts, for attracting money, for removing obstacles to receiving money, and so on. I have many different keys. And do the appropriate exercises. Or, for example, let's say you look at yourself in the mirror and don't think you're pretty enough. You feel disappointed and stuck, thinking that nothing will work out for you because you've dropped to low vibrations, and from there's not much good that can come of it. This also means that you need to perform a key exercise on the energy of the word beauty, for example. Now, in the era of high vibrations, people who have destructive thoughts that destroy other people, send them death wishes, hate them, and so on, are left with nothing and will remain so in the future because there is no energy left at low vibrations. Even those who resorted to methods such as black magic to harm their enemies are left with nothing, because now, at low dark vibrations, there is less and less energy, or power, so to speak. And these people see that they are left with nothing, that their enemies are alive and well, and that everything is fine with them. They are simply left looking like fools, they have simply been deceived. In fact, this is happening right now. So be careful with this, especially now with the increase in vibration, if you have such states when you want to take revenge on someone, want some kind of retribution for someone, and so on. In this regard, you need to be more careful and get rid of this, get rid of these heavy states. At the end of today's video, I will give you some keys that will help you with this. Because my method of working through the energy of words not only helps to raise these vibrations, but also, as a side effect, removes any negative moments. Yes, external influences and your internal negative, destructive attitudes, which you direct inward, outward, into the outside world. This helps to free you from all of that. That is, we are not launching any boomerangs at offenders and so on. In fact, this will not play any role either, because in low energies and vibrations, there is nothing there again. For example, I researched words with a low, that is, negative meaning, the word, war. There is nothing there, complete zero, there are no movements, no living energies, there is nothing there, absolute zero. That's why you need to get out of there, where there is zero, you understand. And then this negativity is neutralized, and these exercises do not trigger any kind of boomerang effect towards your offender. That is, there is no such thing. But here you are freed from it, and your vibrations rise, and your life becomes better because of it. That is, you achieve success, you achieve happiness in all areas of life. And this is essentially punishment for your enemies, because they see that nothing bad has happened to you, but on the contrary, everything is fine with you. And this is punishment, because people with low vibrations cannot withstand high vibrations, they cannot withstand them. Perhaps someone cannot bear to watch my video. Perhaps someone turned it off a long time ago, and so on. If you can't stand it, don't torture yourself, come back when you're ready. There's no need to fall into these low vibrations either. But everyone has their own time for transformation. So come back when you're ready. Yes. At low vibrations, energies fall. And those who used to get energy from low vibrations, for example, there are people who like to assert themselves at the expense of others, that is, to belittle someone, to elevate themselves, or, for example, with the help of NLP methods, specifically aimed against a person, which act to break their psyche. All of this no longer works. These people used to experience a surge of strength from this because there was really a lot of this energy there, but now they are left with nothing. Now they see that it doesn't work for them, it doesn't work. That is, now people are drawn to where the vibrations are high. Now people, again, yes, who is capable of what? Now, with the increase in vibrations, everyone is showing the true colors. Who is capable of? If you believe that the end of the world is coming soon and that many negative things will happen, then such vibrations prevail in you. If you don't want to hear this, if you believe in a bright future, if you believe in personal success in your life, that everything will be fine with you and nothing bad will happen to you, then you are already on high vibrations. So you can even do a test here. I also want to point out that it is necessary to eradicate swearing, because it is also low vibration speech. There is a lot of negative energy in it, which will also prevent you from reaching high emotions, and accordingly, you will not have access to the high states of achievement in your life. In the past, swearing helped people cope with difficult situations in life. Everything is difficult for a person, they walk around like this. And they cheer themselves up with swearing. Now this is not the case, now swearing does not help at all. These are just empty words. In addition, it also defiles the sexual relationship between a man and a woman. Although this is the highest act of union between male and female, which was established by the Creator when he created man. Therefore, the higher powers will not allow this to happen. Now, in the new evolution, this will no longer be possible for the new evolutionary people. Yes, since we have touched on the subject of sexuality, I will say that low sexuality will no longer be so attractive and how to put it, where a lot of energy is felt. In fact, what becomes attractive is elevated sexuality, which is truly inherent in nature at such high energies. And if you are sliding somewhere, that is, you think that nothing will happen, that the world will collapse right now. But the world is simply being rebuilt, because the way it existed before has actually proven to be unsustainable. Especially when it comes to the social structure or how the economy is organized, and so on. Because these are natural processes. If it has already outlived its usefulness and is not effective, then something needs to be changed. Therefore, there is no need to be afraid of change. You need to trust the Creator that everything is fine and that everything will definitely be fine for you, because it cannot be otherwise. And here a lot depends on you, on what you are inclined towards. Again, if you are inclined towards low vibrations, then you will have them. If you are inclined towards high vibrations, then you will live that kind of life, that is, the best life. So, as always, I wish you happiness and a life of high vibrations, and I thank you for your attention. See you in the next videos.